Good afternoon and welcome to our webinar. I'm broadcasting from Dubai, United Arab Emirates. My name is Fawzi Bawab, and it is a pleasure to start this webinar on the topic of the critical success factors to deploy Lean Six Sigma. This is coming from research results from my PhD research on the Lean Six Sigma. So I'm very pleased to have you join us today, and maybe I can share some of the insights and information that it was revealed during the research. Before we get started, I'd like to again welcome you to this webinar, and please, if you can delay your questions till the end, you can probably share the questions throughout the session on the chat menu, and then I'll be more than pleased to answer your questions. So to get us started, just a little bit of housekeeping issues. The webinar is recorded and will be shared on Meirc website and YouTube channel, so you can come back at any time and maybe watch it on our Meirc YouTube channel or the Meirc website. Another thing that I wanted to share with you is the agenda for today. Today webinar is quite short, 30 minutes, 40 minutes of presentation, and then we'll allow some questions. The first item that I would like to discuss is why I am presenting and sharing this information with you, i.e. the importance of the discussion and the research and the findings. The second element is about maybe a little bit of Six Sigma history. Some people that might join us may not have the background on the Six Sigma methodology. And third, the approach that Six Sigma uses to actually achieve process improvement in all sectors in every function. And then we will get into the results of the research, talking about the critical success factors that were revealed and discussed during the literature review, and then the research results that were revealed based on the survey and based on the one technique that I used throughout the research. Takeaways, and then we can take your questions and maybe try to answer some of your inquiries. Um, just a little bit of background on Meirc Training and Consulting, the company I represent. Our company has been for a while actually in the region. It is one of the leading training and consulting companies in the region. Company started in 1958, evolved to be a full solutions in terms of corporate training, career development. So we have a number of offices in the Middle East region, and we have over 26 categories. We offer actually more than 300 courses in different topics, ranging from project management to customer service to quality, operational research, and many other topics that you can find on our website. Two types of courses. We have public training courses, which we offer all across the Middle East, from Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Riyadh, Istanbul, and even Europe as well. And we have in-house sessions that we offer to our clients based on a specific request with a specific need that basically they get tailored to their needs. In terms of the programs, as I mentioned to you, we have over 26 categories. So whether you want to brush up on your presentation skills or maybe get more information about customer service latest technique and the customer experience and the journey, or whether you want to get your PMP under project management. So all you have to do is check the category on our website and you'll see exactly what type of topic and the competencies that that topic will cover. Some of our courses are accredited and certified, which means that you have to sit for an exam or submit a project to get the full accreditation and certification. So whether from the Society of Human Resource Management, the SHRIM, or the Heriot-Watt University, or the ASQ, so many of our courses will be identified as being accredited or certified by that international body. This is me, Fawzi. I'm an engineer by training, so my bachelor's is in civil engineering, moved to get my master's in industrial engineering and focused on operational excellence and quality. I worked with a number of organizations before joining Meirc in 2004. I lived and worked in Canada, the Canadian capital, Ottawa. Worked with a company called KPMG, well known, a company called BSI, British Standard Institution, and IBM as their quality manager, and joined Merck in 2004, became a partner in 2007, and I became responsible for the operational excellence and quality training and consulting. As you can see, in my experience focused on operational excellence and strategy deployment as well. And this is what I've been doing for the last I don't know 30 years, ranging from different career phases, different job profiles, but they're all around the operational excellence and quality management. um, Again, I welcome you again, and onto this session, and I hope that we will have a very productive session. In terms of why am I sharing this, basically the research and the discussions on the literature coming from researchers and even from practitioners will highlight a very high percentage of failures when it comes to Lean Six Sigma projects. So Six Sigma projects, Lean Six Sigma projects, there is a reference in the literature coming from different sources, practitioners and researchers, that 62% is the failure rate, and that is quite an surprising, maybe sometimes even alarming rate when it comes to the failure. Hence, understanding what are the factors that we can have in place even before starting a project in Six Sigma, during the project of Six Sigma, are important to make sure that the chances of success are high. And understanding these factors will be very helpful to practitioners that plan to implement any type of a Lean Six Sigma project. So that was basically the reason and that drove me to actually create this webinar and talk about the failures. During my even this experience as a Six Sigma master black belt, I was involved with probably more than 250 quality and Lean Six Sigma projects, and I noticed that there are projects that they do not come to completion. They fail. They are not presented sometimes. Even people will start their project charter, they will start their measuring stage, and then they might stop, or they might actually fail even at the beginning of the project. So that got me started, and that's where I wanted to focus my research, and I focus specifically on the healthcare sector, on why certain projects will fail. So there was something that I noticed, that the clarity of these factors, critical success factors, was not in place, and possibly that could be one of the reasons that these projects will fail. So that took me into further discussion. I got, of course, immersed with the literature review, and of course, based on my experience, I started my journey looking at why Six Sigma projects would fail, which basically opens the door for the discussion on critical success factor. Now, I know some people might have the background on Six Sigma, but just a quick background or a review of Six Sigma as a methodology. Many people consider total quality management as the precursor of Six Sigma, where Six Sigma came in the early 1990s by a company called Motorola, and sort of formulated this methodology by a number of people at Motorola, Bill Smith, and some of the people that were responsible for improvement. They came in, and the methodology was formed. GE came in later on. Jack Welch gave it a big push, of course, and the methodology became very popular throughout the years to try to basically understand what is happening and how you can basically implement this methodology in companies. Eventually, many companies in different sectors started using it as a competitive advantage, running projects in customer service, in manufacturing, in banking, in supply chain. And eventually, of course, this methodology started to get lots of popularity worldwide. Just to summarize, this is not a Six Sigma course, but basically it's a methodology that is led by senior management, supported by top management, driven by customer needs and the voice of customers. There is a team, a quality team that should be trained. We call them the belts, the yellow belts, the green belts, the black belts. And this team will basically drive this methodology through a specific steps in this methodology, which we refer to as the DMAIC: define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. And each of these steps will require, a certain understanding what needs to be done. We utilize many of the quality tools, so the tools usage is quite popular, and people who do that, they need to be aware of all these tools, including process maps usage, process capability studies, correlation and regression, understanding process variation and statistical process control, and many of the other tools that basically could be qualitative and quantitative in nature. Hence, the understanding of how you collect data, how you sample data, how you transform this data into maybe many of the statistical tools that we use within the Six Sigma tools kit becomes very important in terms of the training. So you can see it's a combination of project management, combination of quality management, combination of statistical tools, quality tools, all put together in this very powerful methodology that can get you the results. Now, why would we do it? Companies can ask that questions, top management. Well, if you want to get lower variation, lower mistakes, lower defects, you want to control your cost of non-compliance or cost of errors or quality, as we call it, and you want to get your customer satisfaction controlled or even enhanced, customer referrals, this could be one of the methodologies that you could consider for improving your business processes. Now, in terms of the approach that we use, it is basically training our belts on how to take any practical problem in any operation, in any business, in any function, and taking that practical problem and transforming it into what we call a statistical problem. Then that statistical problem becomes our mandate in terms of understanding the reasons of the variation and the defects and the problem and the pain, as we call it, and then coming up with a statistical solution. The statistical solution then is transformed into a practical solution to our processes, and then we basically follow this methodology as I explained. They define, the measure, analyze, improve, and control. So again, we take, of course, in the courses of Six Sigma, more time to dive into each of these activities and understand how you can run a project and how you do it. Now, the challenge is, how do you get this methodology done with no failure? You could fail at different stages. You could start with your definition, project management charter, but then you could fail with getting access to data. You could fail at the analysis because you don't have the resources or the tools or the people that could analyze it. You could fail because your recommendations are not implemented. So at the improve and the implementation and the verification of the solution, you could also fail. So do we need certain factors that we could use to actually ensure that we have what we call success? And that's where my discussion comes in here. And we're talking about how to ensure that a statistical problem gets the solution and then they are implemented. So for people who are, good with stat and statistical formulation, this is what we mean. We basically taking a problem and transforming it into a statistical model where we look at the voice of the process. And, this chart can represent what we refer to as the VOP, or voice of the process, and then the customer specification, the upper or lower specification could be what we refer to as the VOC, which is the voice of the customer. Now, this is the target of the process. So you can see here, maybe this process that I just highlighted here is something that is creating errors, mistakes, i.e. the output of the process is not basically complying with the customer needs, and the customer would expect to receive a high number of defects or errors in the output of the process. If we start our project in Six Sigma, the aim and the goal will be, of course, to reduce the variation of this process, to transform it into this blue line that you see here. And as you can see here, this process statistically is more capable than the process in red. i.e., the probability that it will create defects or out of specification will be less. So in the Six Sigma training, this is what we teach people to take processes. And again, this could be a process in HR, this could be a process in IT, this is a process in supply chain. So we could actually implement this methodology in any type of a sector. And of course, we can try to get to a higher Sigma level. Would it be Six Sigma, or would it be Four Sigma, or 4.5 or 5? Well, it depends on the mandate and the goals that you want to achieve in that specific project. But Six Sigma as a concept put by Motorola seeks to achieve a higher level of accuracy and reduce the defects rate to be at 3.4 defects per million opportunities. So we call it the DPMO model. So in that sense, that model that you see here in front of us is basically what we try to achieve. So you can see here a combination of statistical models, combination of project management, people working on the project. So what does it take to make sure that your project will succeed? Well, this is what I want to share with you. And before I share some of the results of the research, I just want to highlight that these results are coming from my PhD thesis that was completed in the early 2020. And basically, it relied on a number of research tools. One of them was a survey that was sent to the quality practitioner, Lean Six Sigma practitioners in the healthcare sector in the UAE. And the other one was basically what we refer to as the focus groups that I held with practitioners. And the third avenue was interviews. So here, just to tell you here that there were 260 responses received. So there were usable responses 191, a little bit of the sample that was used to look at the details and the findings that were published in my PhD thesis on the critical success factors. So based on this, if we look at the literature that I reviewed across all the continents, across many researchers, there was something that I discovered more than 62, probably six critical success factors for Lean Six Sigma. And you can see here from this Pareto chart, if you want to call it a Pareto chart or a bar chart, of the frequency of the critical success factors that were mentioned in the literature. You can see immediately the top 3, 4, 5, if you want. You can see the top management or visible top management commitment was here. You can see training and education of the people that are working with it, making sure that your projects are linked to the customer, i.e. capturing the voice of the customer, and then the organizational infrastructure within the organization. So, I mean, you know, all of them are important, but then if you want to look at the most frequent findings by literature and by research in the field of Lean Six Sigma were these critical success factors. Now, if we want to look at what literature as well has highlighted in different methodologies. So already we know that there is a methodology called, or a philosophy called total quality management. There is the concept of Lean by Toyota, and then you've got Six Sigma on its own, and then you've got the merger of Lean and Six Sigma, or the integration of Lean Six Sigma together. You can see here immediately, this is also coming from research by previous researchers. You can see here that top management commitment tends to be the one across the board. Training and education, communication between the different entities as well. And this is, you know, interesting to see that all of these different methodologies, and of course the integration of Lean Six Sigma becomes here, and you know, in terms of the consistency of the findings. So what I did basically, I wanted to confirm and maybe add to this by looking at the critical success factors specifically in the healthcare sector, implementing Lean Six Sigma, and of course my sample was from the United Arab Emirates. So hospitals, healthcare in the United Arab Emirates. So when we started looking at the survey results in terms of the opinion, Again, there was an interesting sort of conformance with the research and the literature, top management commitment. The second one, however, came the availability of resources, training and education, which was the previous literature reviews as well that highlighted, and then management of cultural change. It seems when you want to implement Lean Six Sigma, specifically in our area, there is that cultural change in how we think about, you know, uh, how we think about implementation of Lean Six Sigma, the project idea, how to get team together. So there's a little bit of cultural challenge that we need to address so we can get these projects done. The other research finding that came in my research and PhD thesis is when I got a group of experts and we did something called the ISM approach to Lean Six Sigma critical success factors. Again, top management commitment continued to be the number one, followed by aligning Lean Six Sigma projects to business and linking Lean Six Sigma to customers. So which was very similar to the previous results done by the survey. So you can see here some kind of an alignment or conformance of the requirements that we find here. And then you can look at the top 3, 4, 5 critical success factors. Cultural change again appeared as the number 5 critical success factor here. So, I mean, all of this is telling me that, look, top management, their visible commitment, their support. So this summarizes what is meant by top management commitment. And you can see here that since Six Sigma methodology is considered a top bottom-up methodology, it is needed that we have the top management support and buy-in. Training and education cannot be, sort of ignored. We need to get people trained, continuously, reminded, refreshed in terms of the ideas. So the training will explain the why and the how, and then, problem-solving tools, statistical tools, and Lean Six Sigma methodology. Understanding how the voice of the customer links to our projects is critical. So we conduct an exercise called the transformation of voice of the customer into something called CTQ, or critical to quality. So this is a very important step that we need to do at the beginning of any project. And then we can continue with the other factors, including organizational infrastructure, aligning the Lean Six Sigma project to business objectives. So there's lots of discussion that can happen under each of these critical success factors. And maybe in the future, I can just take one of them and just focus on what are the best practices, maybe to do project prioritization and selection and management, which we discuss in some of our training, especially when we talk about the green belt and the black belt training. But to have these critical success factors in place is critical, and hence the name critical success factors is critical to the success of the projects themselves. If they're not in place, if they're not implemented in the right manner, then you might actually lessen the chances of success in these Lean Six Sigma projects. So again, a confirmation that management of cultural change that appeared in the results of my research confirmed previous researchers, and we're talking about researchers and practitioners that come from the 7 continents, right? Or the 5 continents, right? The 5 continents. And in that sense, we can talk about the cultural change and the attitudes and the behavior towards improvement. So something that might become a challenge, especially if you're trying to implement Lean Six Sigma in a not mature, in an unmature environment for quality. So a very interesting discussion on critical success factors. Many people will relate to them and try to address them before they start the projects to ensure that you have that in place. In my thesis, I actually took the critical success factors and I tried to build a model. I called it the deployment model for Six Sigma. So what would be in terms of priority? So you would think of it here, and you can confirm the findings before that top management commitment and management of cultural change, they're like the foundation, if you may. And based on that, we can confirm that we have availability of resources, and then the communication of information is done in the right manner in terms of the objectives, the understanding, and then you can see training and education, giving an incentive for people. Why would we do it, and how would you give them the rewards, and then all the way to discuss how these projects will link to the suppliers and how would you monitor them as a dashboard. So all of these are important. I'm not underestimating any of them, but I'm saying sometimes, to get you started, you probably need the foundation to be in place, and then you need to start building on the other critical success factors as such. So absolutely, we can spend more time on this, but again, this webinar meant to just to give you that idea and maybe high level view of the critical success factors that we use. Now, honestly, my 2 cents here are, make sure that your lean projects, your Six Sigma projects are linked to strategic objectives and customer needs. I mean, these are the two very important factors. But again, remember that the foundation is to actually get what into the top management, and then the cultural change and managing that cultural change are very critical in terms of the success of these projects. I hope you are sort of more keen on learning about all these critical success factors, and maybe you'll be interested to go even and read my thesis, which is around 100,000 words. But again, you can read the summary in my thesis. It is a public domain, so you can go and look at the actual thesis, and you can go to Ethos, which is the the thesis public platform for the British universities, and you can download it, and you can read the whole thing as well. And you can see here the effects of Lean Six Sigma critical success factors on organizational performance, a mixed method study on United Arab Emirates hospitals. So I took a little bit of that research. I wanted to share it to the practitioners, so they know that there are valid reasons why we sometimes tell people, be sure that you have the top management commitment, be sure that you have the right infrastructure, the cultural sort of aspects being confirmed before you engage in any type of a Six Sigma project. Basically, that's what I wanted to share with you. Again, the takeaways here is to understand that critical success factors is critical. So, and then not all CSFs are equal. You may want to focus on the critical ones, i.e. top management commitment, culture, and consider top management support and enlist staff cooperation might be the ones that will get you started in your first Lean Six Sigma projects. I hope you have enjoyed this quick webinar. Try to pass all this knowledge in this short time. But again, our courses in Meirc, under the quality and productivity area, many of them, specifically the Six Sigma courses, will focus more on these factors, on the methodology itself. So please feel free to check our website for a more detailed outline and the sessions. I'd like to, receive your questions. If you have any questions, just send them to the chat or type them into the chat, and I'll be more than glad to, answer your questions if you have any questions on the webinar or follow-up questions. So any questions, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be more than glad to answer your questions. We have a number of participants with us today, so if you would like to shoot your questions, send your questions, that would be great. All right. Hope you enjoyed the session. Hope you had, maybe more questions to ask, or maybe more, information that you would like to get. Feel free to email me. My email is basically fbawab. I think it was on the first slide, but I'll type it in the chat again. So feel free if you want to email me with any question at any time regarding this. I hope you've enjoyed it. And I look forward, hopefully, to seeing you again or meeting you in person in the near future. I'll just wait if there's any questions or anything that might come to your mind. I'll be ready to answer your questions. All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. Have a great afternoon or morning, wherever you are. And we will meet again soon. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Meirc.com